Right, ladies and gentlemen, the LEC. I skipped Team of the Week during week 2. I don't know, I was busy. I don't know what happened. No idea why I didn't do it. I think time just disappeared from me. But just to keep you in the loop and to build the collage, my Team of the Week for week 2 was Upset, Linsas, Fleshy, Jojo Pune again, Naknako again. That's the squad. In terms of week 3, what went down? I think the significant things, right, is Fnatic getting demolished by SK. Fnatic getting only a 1 win against G2, and that's it. I thought this was quite a disappointing display. I think in terms of Emperor's fight selection and overall confidence of Fnatic was very, very absurd to see. To see leader like win 40 CS up against Vladi in a matchup Ari Victor was kind of nutty to see too. I also think that Fnatic's prep work here was very bad. I say it from experience because we drafted this exact same draft against NAVI back in versus. Like, let me show you. Like, I know this draft is ass because I speak straight from experience. What happens is when these type of drafts happen, is that basically you create a circumstance where you're picking champions depending on what's going on. So just to elaborate on the thought process, right? It's like, we expected Caitlyn ban, right? We expected Caitlyn ban. They opened Caitlyn, but the moment NAVI gets banned here, we should open Azir. Because we thought to ourselves, okay, if we get Kate, we're happy, and then we're going to move on. But we should have banned Rumble because Jhin and Rumble is good into Kate, and we overthought it so much by making Caitlyn Pantheon. That pairing is not so good, Caitlyn Pantheon. We picked Pantheon because we thought Pantheon would be better against the unique champions that LEC plays, and we broke the form of the comp by not picking Caitlyn and Xin Zhao here and banning Rumble because Caitlyn would have been the answer into, like, Jhin is answered into Kate and Rumble Jhin is good together into Kate, and then we end up in Cassante, and then finally the Karma into the Bard, and then we ban Nautilus and Kiana, giving Bard when enemy has Jhin. Disgusting draft altogether, right? This is one of the worst drafts we did on LR. Like, it was horrible. All the other drafts, I think, was kind of cold, was kind of good, but this one really stood out as a sore thumb. And I bring this up because, yeah, Fnatic did the exact same thing, right? Fnatic did the exact same thing. It doesn't look good because the synergy of the champions isn't really there. You don't really have good options to where you want to pressure with Pantheon. It looks like they kind of just picked Pantheon because that's what is being successful right now in the LCK and the LPL, and then they had a win on it and they went for it. Ezreal, Nami, Victor, Xin Zhao, and then Twisted Fate into Cassante. I think Twisted Fate is quite weak into Pantheon, but this game had a lot of back and forth. There's a bigger reaction video for me in terms of how horrible and terrible this was. I think better if you just check that out if you want more clear opinions on what actually went wrong. And this was such a massive throw too. It was very disappointing. It's just Razork engage angle and how Emperors create space in these fights is so terrible. They always play the fights in such spread out ways and so desperate. Fnatic have really, really terrible coordination, and also on an individual basis, very, very bad judgment for what actually constitutes a good fight. And at this point, I do think that Fnatic played a lot worse here than they did against G2. So at this point, you have to ask yourself, is Fnatic players just experiencing a lot of pressure? Because I think this draft, Fnatic draft, is giga winning. Like, this is a very hard Rumble game to play because enemy has Sion Nocturne. I think Aurora into Zed is winning for Aurora. And then Lulu Yunara into Nico Jhin should also be a winning concept. Your scaling is really good. Your early game is really good. And Rumble, like, everyone should suffer on SK. It shouldn't be possible. The only way they won, right, was because Rumble got so much team fight value because the fights always happened in 2 waves. Yunara and Lulu couldn't connect to any single fight because his teammates in Aurora, Sion, and Nocturne just engaged for no damn reason, perma, and never took any space. Yeah, Fnatic is just full suffering. And the reason I talk about the pressure is because, yeah, if you lose this game, odds are you're not going to make playoffs. It's getting closer and closer. And all of these best of 3 is going to matter. And you have some hard matchups coming up where you're clearly the underdog. There's no reason as to why those teams should fold as easy as G2 did against you, because obviously that was a mixture of both. Like, Fnatic played well, but G2 also played like other ass. KC versus Team Heretics. I think KC, this was just an easy day to log, you know. Like, KC as a team, obviously individually on a whole nother level in comparison to Team Heretics. I think Team Heretics, you can clearly see the growing pains of their change in the support position, because a big part of their success, Team Heretics, was how good Stand and, of course, Sheo played together, in my opinion. They had really, really good like macro play, macro movement. They connected and they found ways to play the game. Team Heretics are lacking that, and I think that Team Heretics have kind of regressed. And the main question is if bringing in after now Wei is in, and then Hype is going to come through in summer. I don't know how much it's going to change, because Ice is still a really good player. So I could even argue that Ice is better than Hype, So I don't know if Team Heretics made the right decision in terms of the steps that they made, but maybe this is a long-term play. We will just have to say Team Heretics, in my opinion, has regressed in their macro and their potential ceiling. But it was also one of those things where I think teams around them have actually actively improved. Vitality vs G2, I also did a longer review of that, which you can find on the channel. But I think the main thing for Vitality is the fact that I think that they have improved in terms of how they draft. I think in this particular game, G2 should have won. But this Lulu Rumble pairing, I really don't like it from G2's side. It reminds me a lot, once again, I'm going to pull up our draft. When we won against G2, they played a very, very similar pairing, if not exactly the same. As you can see, the construction is very similar, right? With the Rumble, Lulu, and the Rise. The main detail here that I want to highlight, and what I think is the problem, is the fact that, Lulu, Rumble don't have synergy, and then when you have Rumble on side, you don't have like something heavy and good to actually play into with your Roam Prio. And then the only active play that you can look for with Ahri and Vi is then hopefully the enemy mid laner, but the Lissandra pick is very smart here because it denies exactly what Ahri and Vi wants to do. So Vitality's drafting is improving a lot. I like the Aurora on 4 flex, which is very powerful when you can send it into top lane no matter what when they're showing. I like the Jarvan Bard prio. I think Jarvan and Bard are some of the strongest 3v3 mid lane champs that we see. This was something that we saw in the D plus KT game too. If you guys notice, the prio on Bard and Jarvan is 100% correct. Like Jarvan and Bard are just some of the strongest 3v3 champions mid, and that's what the meta is about. So I think Vitality's draft reads are very good. G2 seem to be at their best, right, when Caps has a lot of agency in the game and they have bot lane prio. I think that the Seraphine Ashe Zinza 1, 2, 3 is one of the strongest ones that you can do blind currently on the patch. So this is something that they cooked up. I did think that the Yasuo was at points and time a liability, but Caps had a very, very beautiful LeBlanc here as he was solo killing and pressuring humanoids super, super much. So it was nice to see. And then the final game, once again, I don't understand what G2 is really cooking. I think Lucian and Milio, very outdated. Nami Ezreal, perfectly fine to lock in. Keep in mind here, it wasn't like KOI was picked away or anything happened to it. This was a choice that Vitality opted into. Ezreal Nami is a weaker combo, but Ezreal might be a little bit safer. I think KOI is just better. I think that Lucian and Milio have the same matchup into Ezreal or KOI. This was Nami first pick with Nautilus ban, Varus and Karma out, which makes a lot of sense. This is teams. There were a lot of spots where I think teams should have first picked Nami, but they didn't. And then the Syndra follow-up. I think that Ezreal and Nami and, of course, Syndra have weaknesses. I think the Sion pick is perfectly fine because the enemy team is not good into tanks. I just think that the follow-up here with the Zoe and the Olaf is very strange. I think I'm very surprised because apparently we looked into it, but something that is interesting is that Scumond as a player, he has one career Nocturne game, and that's a loss. Because obviously this is a perfect Nocturne slam instead of the Olaf. I don't know why we are so desperate to squeeze in the Olaf. I think Nocturne would have been better. I think that in mid lane there's also better options, but I think that, we could have done better. Honestly, thinking about it, you guys, as LR had an insane read on most of the meta early. Yeah, our meta read was amazing. Like, we could be playing those same drafts today, and we could have been insane. Like if you look at some of our drafts, maybe this draft was pretty ass, right? Because we ended up on KOI Braum, they banned Nami Bard. This was really bad, right? I think this one was ass. No, for sure, that one can be improved. Los Ratones versus KCB. Like, we have Rise, KOI, Jarvan, Nami. Like, this is a very, very strong core, and this is before Rise nerfs, This is a very, very good draft read in my mind, We had a very good draft read. And then here we had the Vi Flex baiting out the Wukong into Dr. Mundo Slam. Like, this was a nice one. We had the Orianna read with the Bard into enemy comp. We had a very, very good read early on. I agree. We had the Nami pairing together with other ADCs besides KOI, which was super nice. But then at the flip side, like, look what the shifters are drafted against us, bro. They picked Lucian Nico. You know, if they pick Kai'Sa here and Aatrox on 5, I think we cannot win the game. I don't know. I think people underestimate how much, you know, we had so many holes in our draft in terms of what we could and couldn't play that in a lot of cases there were prayers. Like, for example, here, the Vi lock-in. I tell my guys, you know what I say? I say, guys, if we pick Vi, Yike 100% will pick Wukong. And if we ban Mbessa Kesante, they will blind pick Nar. And then we can send Vi into the Nar and we can counter Wukong with Dr. Mundo. If they decided to pick Renekton here, we're just kind of fucked. They could have just picked Renekton here. But I had such a fucking read on Yike and Kana that I was like, okay, rock and roll, you know, rock and roll. We're going to do this. I said this in Champions Select. It was the same here. I was very unhappy with this draft because we talked about the whole day about how this shouldn't be allowed to be played. And then we had Ryze Pantheon. You guys know Ryze Pantheon. Like, we were very early on that shit too, you know. We picked the Caitlyn for bot lane prio, and I was like, okay, we need to set up, so we're going to pick AD top laner blind. We're going to do it. And then suddenly, all my players call for the Gragas. And I see that Nemesis is just rolling his eyes. Like, what the fuck are we doing? And then he just didn't say anything. But thank God, if shifters went Kai'Sa 4, right? If they went Kai'Sa 4 together with Nico and Vi, and then they slammed Aatrox on 5, we cannot win. Because a very important rule for Ryze is that you don't pair him together with AP top laners. Because if Ryze is solo AP, he wins side lane against every person in the game. And then, of course, Gragas, you know, Bowsy popped off and we won. It was all good, all love, but, you know, there it is. And that brings him back to the G2 LR, right? It's like we were early on the fucking Anivia into the Ryze. Anivia is fucking broken. We thought so. Like, I still think so. And I just think it got better and better as a champ, especially now that people played support. This champion is giga broken. And then we had the Yunara Nami combo that we dropped because everyone thought that you can just play it together with KOI, but we had Yunara, and then they went Lulu, and we had Enchanter and Nami. This was a good time, and Mundo was also in a really, really good spot. Anyhow. So the Nocturne, I think Nocturne would have been a better pick there for G2. If you ask me, am I worried about G2? Not really. G2 still have 6 games to play. Keep in mind, they are 1 and 2. 1 and 2, they lost against Vitality. Vitality in really good form. I think there's no shame in losing that. A lot of shame in losing to Fnatic. They beat Team Heretics. I don't think there's a world where G2 end up behind Fnatic, SK, Shifters, Team Heretics. That's a very big ask, guys. Very, very big ask. And G2 still has 6 games to play, and I think that they're going to be able to do it, you know? SK been looking clean, man. Luigi needs to get a new pair of glasses. Like, I don't know how you end up on thinking that SK looking clean. Because SK, I feel like every game of theirs is a dirty 40-minute game. If we just pull up SK Gaming and we look at their game duration, I wouldn't be surprised if they have one of the highest ones in all of Pro Play. 37.42 game time. Let's just compare it to the other teams in the region. So we have G2 Esports. Let's take a look at G2. G2, 33. Maybe we look at something that is more evenly matched, like DNS, like KRX. Teams. Maybe we do by teams, and then we do game duration, average game duration. SK Gaming is up there, bro. Look at that. SK Gaming is the 3rd highest game duration in the world. This is including ERLs. And if we don't include ERLs, they are easily first. That is nuts. So yeah, it's definitely, obviously length isn't everything, but it tells a tale of how messy their games are. If there's anything to highlight, I do think that Yopa is doing well. I think he's improving for the team. Still, leader and Skeens, you gotta earn your keep a little bit, bro. You gotta earn your keep a little bit more, you know? Game girth is very important, fuck, you know? Alright. MKOI, dispatch of SK, was rough. He read that once again. It is what it is. I thought that in this game, it was weird how Shifters seems to just be the same team, you know? I honestly just think Paduk. I think Paduk is just bad, bro. And I think that Bukada is just not a good player. It might sound harsh, but I just don't think these players belong in the LEC. Because there's some substance there for shifters sometimes. They get good game states, but they could never like finish. But I feel like the Bukada Paduk thing, these two guys, I feel like they are at the bottom of the list when it comes to the league, you know? Because at least, you know, they get good game position, they get some good advantage, good opportunities, but it just doesn't seem to mean anything when you're watching shifters, you know? Doesn't seem to mean anything. And this was a very, very mean performance from Jackie's in my mind. Jackie's played very, very good on the Aurora. Very juicy performance. So with that being said, Team of the Week last week was, as I mentioned, Upset, Linsas, Fleshy, Jojo Pyun, Naknako. Let's make a list again. So it's going to be very Vitality loaded, you know, because Vitality, they played 2 series again. I think it's hard to find an argument. Just like Vitality is 6 series in comparison to some teams that, of course, have done fuck all. You know, they played 3 games, 3 series. The conversation of course, the schedule is a different one. Even though there's, you know, big competition happening later in the split in terms of this, the road shows, they could have still scheduled a little bit better. I'm also confused about the road shows as to how the decisions were made for who goes. Because I'm surprised that you wouldn't put Vitality in the KC roadshow, for example. Like, you bring shifters to a roadshow, why do they get the roadshow, bro? Like, just put Vitality in here. It would have been way more hype, bro. Like, we're putting shifters in the roadshow. If we had KC, NAVI, Fnatic, and Vitality would be way cooler. This is a regular week, and then the roadshow here. This is a roadshow that makes sense to me because we get G2, KC, GX. Like, this is a monster roadshow, you know, you stack it to the brim. But even with that in mind, I do feel like you could have squeezed a little bit more games for some of the other teams, you know. But it's crazy that the standings might just be decided completely based on the scheduling before this week plays. The only thing that adds any form of drama is the fact that G2 hasn't made it. So if there's a world where G2 didn't make it, let's say all these teams, all these games play out a very certain way, and G2 didn't make it yet, and they have to win games this weekend, then it's hype. But if G2 has already made it and all the teams around them have been smoked and gone, then this week it loses all of its hype, you know? I feel like this is one of those, weekends that could be ruined by the standings, but also could become way more hype because of the standings. But if G2 has made it, and all the bottom 4 teams are out, like Fnatic and all that jazz, and Fnatic is cooked, Team Heretics is cooked, Shifters is cooked, SK is cooked, then this is not hype at all. I think there was a better way, more elegant way to make sure that the game parity is more evenish. So, first and foremost, for Team of the Week, we're going to start with, once again, we're going to send in, this is a good, cool picture. We're going to send in Flashy, bro. Flashy's coming back. He gets the back-to-back award. We're going to put him right behind there. Flashy. I think it's just a very important reason as to why this team is doing so well. I think Flashy is just doing a really, really good job of keeping up with the beats. I like the fact that we get to see so many different sides to Flashy too. He can play the range supports. He can play the pike, you know, bust that out. I think that his engages and what he's forcing. There was a game where he played Rel that I really enjoyed watching him. We have like the Ezreal Karma that they play is one of the strongest ones in the league. I don't trust any Ezreal Karmas in the league besides like Vitality, MKOI, KC, and G2. You know, like and they're up there. You know, the Ezreal Karma looks really good. I like the fact that he has such a range of play and he has the capacity to drop a little pike if it comes down to it, you know. I can't find the pike game. Where is the pike game? I'm pretty sure he played pike. Am I crazy? Was that last split? I might be crazy. Might be last split. Anyhow, I appreciate his range of play big time. And also, I appreciate that he's keeping up with the beats in the game. And it's a big reason why Linsas has also found a lot of success. I think Linsas and Flashy just work together super well. That segues me beautifully into the next person I'm putting up here. Which of course is Linsas. As it stands right now, you know, Linsas and Fletcher are having some of the best performances in their life. I think this is a new peak for them. Currently, the least consistent parts of the team and the parts that are like causing the most problems in my mind is actually like humanoid, sometimes being outlaned by the likes of like Jojo Pune and Caps. And then just Kazi, Kazi being inconsistent in how he approaches team fights. I did think there was a game where he got sold, for example, the first G2 game. Here I do think that Fleshy completely sold Kazi on the Caitlyn game because he opened on mid through vision when he should know. He really sold his Caitlyn on eBay. But I do think that it speaks a lot of volumes about me saying this about Vitality. It's not that Kazi and Humanoid are playing bad. They're playing quite good. It's just that they are the weakest part of the team right now in terms of how good Linsas and Fleshy move around on the map and how good Naknako is. And what I like about Fleshy is that he's dynamic. Prepping against him is not super easy, and I do think that he finds attack vectors all over the map. He's not only like opening mid through bot. He sometimes opens through top into mid. Sometimes he ganks top on gank timers and gets Naknako hit. This is something that is very hard to play against, so I like that a lot. In terms of mid lane, this is going to be a very special one, a rare one, but I do think it ties into where I think the potential lies of GX. So for the longest time when I talked about this team, I always thought that their ceiling is held back by the fact that Jackie's as a player is not finding the highs that he's supposed to find. I do think that Jackie's as a player, I had higher expectations for him, especially last year, and I feel like he's finally coming to life, And I think that he had a good weekend, and this split is actually a split return to form, because his rookie split was really nice, and then with the meta shift, he really didn't catch up. And I do think from watching him in houses, laning against Vladdy, fighting against some of the world's players, I always had very high hopes for Jackies. And if you're a GX fan and you want to, have hope for GX actually making to the World Championship, making a deeper run, it lives and dies by how good Jackies can be. Because Isma, I think he's already capped out as a player. He's strong early, very inconsistent later. But I do think that Jackies is the one that needs to breach new ceilings, and that's what's happening, Jackies needs to continue to improve and continue to do better, but I do think that he was very important, instrumental in the win against Shifters. While not mean much, but I do think that his team has kind of let him down there. So that's something that is worth to monitor. In terms of ADC, is Yopa just winning another one? Is Yopa just winning another one? That's the question here. It might just be the case that Jopa just wins another one. They put Yopa in. He had a very, very good performance against Fnatic, and I think that's simple. So we have Linsas, Fleshy. Well, it's just another week of Naknako. We had the beautiful fucking Camille game that he played. Naknako might just be the MVP of the whole league. His Aatrox game was really nice. He solo killed. It has to be Naknako. We're not gonna not give it to him just because he has so many of them, Naknako is the MVP of the league right now. And that's the team of the week for week 3. Let's pull up the matches that are coming through and make some quick predictions. GX versus NAVI is an interesting one. I'm not too hyped on NAVI. I think GX and NAVI feel to be very capped out right now. If I compare it to MKOI, Vitality, KC and G2, I feel like they're playing a whole different game right now. I think Navi has to figure out a way to restructure, and I do think, if anything, that brings me hope is that Poby seems to be returning to form a little bit, but I am worried about the Korean mid laners that were very, very good at certain matchups, and now in the meta shift need to refine themselves again in a new environment that is in Europe, when the off-season was spent in Korea, where you grind solo queue and so forth. So that's going to be a challenge. I think that Navi's predictability and their inability to, be dynamic in the mid to late game in terms of how they make side lane plays and how they make collapses. I think they play too vanilla of a game in the current meta. And I think GX are a little bit more dynamic, but I think that the risk that they can elevate also is something that can be blown up into their face. If GX play like they did against Shifters, I think that they can lose against Navi easily here. But I do think that GX has a higher upside in terms of how they play. I think Navi is more consistent, but they will not cause upsets. GX has a little bit of a higher ceiling, but I don't think that this is something that can ever last in BO5s. So with that being said, currently I think this is a toss-up, but my gut is telling me in the short term, GX. But this could change tomorrow. That's how close I think this matchup could be. I have faith in NAVI, but I think that GX can have very, very good early games, and I think that's an important aspect. I think Isma plays weird enough early games to throw Rylek off of his game, and I think that Navi needs to have a strong Rylek to make it all the way. G2 vs SK, G2's going to win. Vitality vs GX, I think Vitality is just going to win. I think just with everything that we said about their team, I think all of this rings true against GX too. Vitality can drop a game, but I don't think they're going to drop a series against GX. Team vs MKOI, MKOI is going to win. Ships vs G2, G2 is going to win. KC vs SK. All right, very tough week for SK Gaming. KC, G2. Good luck is all I say.